What is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing? Today, we are going to be doing another reaction here to a Bleacher Report article for the Just Ballin' podcast. And this one is going to be no-brainer NBA trade ideas for this upcoming offseason. So we'll see if they're actually no-brainer, what side would say yes, what side would say no. Because the playoffs, man, you know, it's kind of a nice, to do a little bit of blend of playoff talk and just offseason talk, because the offseason has pretty much started for 22 teams, basically, and there's some teams right now that are going to have some offseason question marks depending on what the playoffs end up resulting with, because right now the Boston Celtics, who it's already been reported that they're going to have to shed some cap this offseason. I don't know if that's like Al Horford, new contract, or they're actually going to trade Drew, White, Brown, or Porzingis, one of those guys. They're down 2-0 to the New York Knicks in insane fashion. The fact that they actually blew two 20-point leads in game one and game number two. I have expressed my thoughts a ton about that. As a Knicks fan, I was ready. I was never going to change the channel, but I was like, you know what? This is going to be stress-free watching. Lose by 12, right? Make it look a little bit better in the fourth quarter. No, the Knicks actually won game two when I thought they had no chance, after I thought they had no chance on losing game one. So the fact that the Knicks are up 2-0, which is kind of crazy. The Pacers are up 2-0 right now, and the Cavs are dealing with some injuries. They have a chance to go down 3-0 on Friday, and that's going to be in Indiana. OKC did not go down 2-0. They blew out the Nuggets in game number two. And then we'd still have the Warriors and Timberwolves game two tonight, but no Steph. So, yeah, Minnesota should end up winning, but you never know. All right, so let's get into these NBA trade ideas. They're going to start off with Anthony Simons boosts Orlando Magic's offensive attack. I do think that's a no-brainer trade target for them. I actually pitched a ton last offseason, Anthony Simons to the Magic, and I thought they could financially absorb Simons' contract because Paolo Banchero's contract extension does not kick in until Simons is off the books on his current deal, and then you would only have $25 million or $25 million for Simons in 2026, overlapping with 1 year into the Franz Wagner and Jalen Suggs extensions. So maybe they're going to be all in on somebody like Anthony Simons now. I don't know if they'll mention Kobe White, but I think somebody that can play the point guard role in a pinch, but can also be somebody that could just be a high volume shooter for you. And that's what Anthony Simons has been. Not a great defender, but I do think fits Orlando Magic's offense like somebody they need, but I think he can be complemented nicely defensively, because now you can bump Suggs to the two. And if somebody gets by Simons, you got Franz cutting in, you got Paolo cutting in, or maybe Suggs as a help defender, and then everybody can rotate well, because at least Simons is still athletic and quick and agile, that he can kind of make up for the loss of that on-ball defense. Now, they offer Anthony Black, KCP, and the first-round pick this year via Denver. That seems kind of like a high price tag. I feel like Anthony Black, while I still think he's got a lot of potential that he needs to fill in and has been maybe behind schedule, he can get you a lot bigger of a name. Like, I think I'd rather have Kobe White than Anthony Simons, and I think Black can get me there. Who knows? You could maybe get Kevin Durant with like Black as like a headliner, and then some filler, like maybe it's like a Wendell Carter Jr. or Goga Bitadze in draft capital, right? I think that's a lot. Like, if I'm the Portland Trailblazers, you take on the KCP contract, you're finally going to get off of the Aiden contract next year and Matisse's contract, and you still have Grant for a little bit, but now you got to pay KCP $40 million for the next 2 years. Yeah, you had another first-round pick in this draft, but Black, I still think we got to figure out what he is at the NBA level, because I think we've seen him operate at times at an efficient level as like a lead ball handler, or bringing up the ball and being kind of a point guard, but also is he going to use his length and maybe not the best court vision in the world to be more of a wing and a slasher and a cutter in the half court. So I don't know why the Magic would give. I just don't think it's wise to give up Black for somebody like Anthony Simons, because Black still has team control for the next 2 years going forward. And I think Simons is great ad. Like, I like that idea. I love that fit. That's somebody that if they go out and get that, if they get Simons, I'm going to be all on board with that. But Anthony Black does seem like a lot for Anthony Simons, who's in the last year of his deal. He's not a great defender. And if you put him in like a, not a bigger market, but he's going to be on one of his better teams yet with the Orlando Magic in 26. I just don't know how well his defense is going to look in the playoffs. And I just don't think it's going to cost you Black. Maybe it's KCP. Maybe it's Jett Howard or Caleb Houston or one of those guys. Or maybe it's Goga Bitadze and it's the 25th pick. Or maybe they have to give up the 16th pick instead. I just don't think you need to give up Anthony Black in this deal. They mentioned that, like, I just think, yeah, Black's so 6'7". I don't think he would take touches away from Scoot, and both of them were in the same draft class, both taken in the top 10. Both of them maybe haven't exceeded expectations yet, but I think for Portland, you want to get as much young talent in the room. And Simons, hey, he may leave you in free agency in 26. Now, if I was Simons' camp, you're probably going to get the most money for your client in Portland. Or maybe it happens in Orlando, so I don't know if I'd be okay with this, because we see time and time again, like, guys that are going to get paid by their teams, but if they really hit the open market, I don't think they're going to get paid as much as they would like, a la Kyle Kuzma from a couple years ago, getting $100 million from the Washington Wizards, or $80+ million when he was not going to sniff that on the open market, in my opinion. So I think for this, I like the idea of Orlando getting Anthony Simons. I'm really on board with that, but I don't think I'm moving Anthony Black for Simons. I don't really think that's worth it for the investment that Simons can give you for basically 1 year. And what if the shooting dips a little bit and he's really a negative defender, and then you're like, all right, I don't know if I want to commit $60 million to Simons or more than that, and then we just kind of gave away Anthony Black going forward for that. So I would say no to this deal specifically, but I would still try to get Simons. Kobe White's a different story, because I do think Kobe White is a better player than Simons, and it's at least a little bit less money against your luxury tax right now. Mitchell Robinson to the LA Lakers. So Mitchell Robinson has been a very, very productive player for the Knicks in the playoffs, more specifically in the start of the Celtics series. Now, the free throws have not been great, and there's a reason why the Celtics did like a hack of Mitchell Robinson in the first 2 games, and Mitchell Robinson had a horrible free throw attempt in game 2, and I think is really losing his confidence from the stripe. But man, Joe Mazzulla kind of got out coached by Tibbs. Now, I don't know if it was Tibbs or like an assistant off the bench that gave Tibbs this idea, but they kept fouling Mitchell Robinson to like get him to the free throw line, but they were still like 3 fouls away from the bonus. So they foul him once. All right, 2 fouls from the bonus. Foul him again. That's another foul from the bonus. So the next one, say they're in the bonus, the game stops. So the Knicks just take out Mitchell Robinson, they put in OG Anunoby, and now the next time the Knicks get fouled, they're getting free throws out of it. So I just thought Mazzulla, like that just wasn't worth it. I don't get why you're fouling Mitchell Robinson unless you're in the bonus, because then you're actually setting him to the line. What's the point of just getting 2 fouls? I think it was on like maybe Horford or Drew or Cornette, right? Like it's not like the most important players, but I just think like the Knicks coaching staff just outsmarted the Celtics coaching staff there. And that's a big reason why the Knicks were able to get back in the game. And Mitchell Robinson was a game high in plus minus and was a monster on the boards. And that's what everybody envisioned when it was Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns out there at the same time. So this is a trade that sends Jared Vanderbilt to the Knicks, which I do think they need a good defender on the perimeter. And that could be Vanderbilt, a 2025 second, which the Knicks could use another second, and a 2026 first round swap. Okay. Vanderbilt doesn't have a pretty contract. Like he's making $10+ million a year for the next few years, and his offense is not really aged well. Now, if I could somehow get Dalton Connect out of this trade, and maybe you could drop the 2026 swap, because I think the Knicks and the Lakers are going to be around the same record in 2026. So I don't really think, even if the Knicks end up better than the Lakers, you're not really moving up that many spots where I think it's worth it. If you can get Vanderbilt, Connect, and a 2025 second for Mitchell Robinson, as a Knicks fan, I think I would do that, because Mitch is a free agent at the end of the 2026 season. You have Vanderbilt under control, and that contract is still like, off the top of my head, it's less than like 8%, I believe, of your team's total cap space, or around that range. And then you're getting another second this year. I think the Knicks need to find cheap, cost-controllable, rotational players, as you really didn't get much. Like, you got something out of Landry Shamet and Campaign and Precious Achiuwa this year, but you need that influx of young talent, because I'm not really high on Kolek being like a guy for them in the playoffs ever, maybe. But Kobe Dadiet is still years away from being something. Maybe Huporti can be a backup center for you next year, and that could be why you can make this trade. The Knicks need perimeter defense off the bench. And Vanderbilt can be that for you. I know, like, it's been up and down for him this year, coming back from injury, but maybe a full offseason where he's healthy, the Knicks can kind of buy low and sell high on Mitchell Robinson, who needs a new contract, and so does Mikal Bridges. And you're paying Cat, he got the Supermax, right, from Minnesota, or close to it. And then you also have Brunson getting new money, and Hart's getting paid, and OG's contract's fully kicking in now. So I think the Knicks could look to do that this offseason. I think it really depends on how the Knicks go this offseason or this playoff run, right? Like, say they lose 4 in a row to Boston, or they lose 4 to the next 5, and they lose in 7, or they lose in 6, then I think the Knicks would be okay with it. But man, if the Knicks go to the conference finals and say they make the NBA finals or have a really competitive series against Indiana or Cleveland, I don't know if the Knicks would really want to break up what they have right now, with Mitchell Robinson, who was out for 75% of the regular season, 70% of the regular season, maybe a little less than that. But then either way, the Cat Robinson numbers have looked good in the playoffs. So I think he would be a really good Lakers ad. He's still very uncoordinated for somebody of his size. If the ball's not up high, he's really not catching it. If it's around his body or his waist, it's probably going to be a turnover. Him and OG have like the worst connection or worst chemistry of completing passes in transition and just in the half court. But I think Mitchell Robinson gives you a great rebounder. And you really see in the playoffs that physicality is allowed a lot more. Like the Knicks and the Celtics were fouling the crap out of each other, and those aren't going to get called as much as they will in the regular season. And I do think there's value to Mitchell Robinson in a playoff series, where sometimes he gets in foul trouble in the regular season, In the playoffs, he's allowed to do a little bit more. So they also mentioned that the Miami Heat load up for next season. I don't know if they should do that. Nikola Jovic, Andrew Wiggins, Terry Rozier, Duncan Robinson, the Warriors' first-round pick this year, and a 2029 top 5 protected first for Markkanen, Sexton, and Clarkson. Okay, let me think about this. This is interesting. I'm honestly more so that the Heat should be okay not being a playing tournament team next year and landing a top 10 pick in the 2026 draft, which should be better than 2025. I mean, you're really not losing anything here of too much value. Like, you're losing a pick in the teens from the Warriors. Jovic, what you still think you can get out of him. You're getting off the Wiggins money, which I know Wiggins is a fine player, but the contract maybe isn't the best. Rozier and Duncan Robinson are kind of like negative assets for you at this point, and you do have to give up your 2029 top 5 protected first, which I think has a little bit of value to it. But you're getting good rotational players in return. Now, I'm trying to think like what's your best lineup. Is it like Davion Mitchell at the 1, Hero at the 2, Markkanen at the 3, Ware at the 4, Bam at the 4, Ware at the 5, and then you have Sexton and Clarkson coming off the bench with Jaime Jaquez, Pele Larson next year, and then you wouldn't have a first round pick in this draft. I could see why Miami would want to do that, but I feel like they have their eye set on a bigger name, and maybe that's Kevin Durant. Maybe, I mean, they're going to try for Giannis, but you're not getting Giannis without getting Bam. So I think you get a really good third scorer here without really having to like trade away Hero or Bam or Ware. And you would if you went after like Giannis or Booker or Ja or Katie or one of those guys. You get off of the Rozier and Robinson money. I think you get off the Wiggins money long term, which is nice. It hurts to lose Jovic, and you'd rather move Jaquez, but I think Utah would want the upside of Jovic. And Utah, I don't know if like Utah would do this. Honestly, I feel like I'd rather send out these guys in separate trades. Like, I don't really want the Andrew Wiggins contract in Miami unless that's getting rerouted somewhere else. I want Jovic. I mean, I would just buy out Rozier immediately and probably waive Robinson and take the $10 million hit. I mean, you get another first round pick. Do they want another one in this year's draft? Which is around the pick that they're getting from Minnesota, I believe. And then you get a 2029 Heat first, top 5 protected. I think I'd want that if that becomes unprotected the following year, or if it's top 3 protected, might be a little bit more interested in that. But I wonder if you can get more you're not really getting much for Jordan Clarkson at this point. You could probably get like maybe a high value second, maybe I think a lesser young player than Nikola Jovic. I don't even think you can get Pele Larson for Jordan Clarkson at this point in his career. Colin Sexton, I still think has a little bit of trade value, but could you get like the 18th pick or whatever the Warriors pick is off the top of my head? I'm unsure, but it's around that range. And then Jovic, maybe. And then what value does Markkanen have? Because he had a lot of value last offseason. You could have gotten Pods, maybe Moody, and then a bunch of draft capital for Markkanen, and that was on the table, or Wiggins. I don't know. I just don't think the Heat need to do this. I don't really think, like, this makes them a better team for sure, but does it make them better than Boston, Cleveland, Indiana, New York, Orlando even? Philly's going to be better next year. Detroit's going to be better next year, probably still. So I just don't really know if that makes them better than those teams. Still makes them good. Like, it could make them a top 6 seed. It's going to be a better regular season team. I just don't know if that's really all the chips you want to put in right there. I think they could be okay taking a little bit of a step back. And then for Utah, I mean, you get off of the market in long-term money. You get so Sexton and Clarkson are gone, and now this allows more minutes for the young guys. I think you really got to see where the lottery goes, because especially if you land like Dylan Harper or guard, you want them to have more minutes, and that could also free up more minutes for those guys as well. I just don't think either team would do this specific trade. I mean, it's new. I haven't really seen an idea like this. You guys can let me know, Jazz fans and Heat fans, in the YouTube comments or the Spotify comments. Let me know. So let's see. Celtics shed salary. Pistons load up in a 3-team deal. Ooh, I'm intrigued because Drew Holiday is the thumbnail photo for this. So the Celtics are receiving Isaiah Stewart under a nice contract, basically 2 years, $30 million remaining on it. Detroit receives Drew Holiday and Cam Johnson. Whoa. And then Brooklyn receives Tobias Harris, Sam Hauser, Marcus Sasser, and Detroit's first-round pick, top 5 protected in 2026. I mean, for Brooklyn, I don't know if I love that return for Cam Johnson. Like, I guess it really depends on what happens in the lottery. And Sasser, I think, could still be a good role player in this league. And for somebody that was drafted in the mid-20s in that 23 draft, that's really good value. You get Detroit's first next year, which is probably going to be in the teens, maybe the early 20s with this trade. I kind of love this for Detroit because I think there's still like one more good Drew Holiday year left. And he can still space the floor around Cade and could be a great defender, which they could use. I mean, Cade... because then, like, where's Ivy's fit? But there's a lineup out there where it's Cade, Holiday, Thompson. I don't know if you want Thompson and Holland out there in crunch time. But then you can also have Beasley out there with Duren at the 5. Or for this trade, Cam Johnson, actually. So, yeah, it'd be Cade, Drew, Asar, Cam Johnson and Jalen Duren, like there's still good floor spacing ability and some really good physicality there. I know the fan base does like Isaiah Stewart, but I think they'd be okay moving off of Sasser and Tobias Harris. I'm trying to think, like, I feel like Brooklyn would want a little bit more than just like Tobias Harris expiring. Is that Sam Hauser contract a negative asset at this point? So the really things you're getting is some unwanted money, Sasser in a 2026 first. Honestly, you're giving Boston a heavy out in this deal to get off of the Drew money and save money by trading away Hauser. And you're getting them a good rotational big. I think I'd want a first round pick if I'm Brooklyn from Boston for orchestrating this deal and getting off of that money. Like, I want Boston. I mean, they owe a Spurs pick down the line, and I believe they owe a pick to the Spurs from the White trade, and I believe they owe a pick to Portland from the Drew trade. So yeah, like there's some picks that they can move down the line, but I think they can move their 2025 first. Like, I would want that 100%. I would want another pick if I'm Brooklyn, or I'm not saying yes to that. If I'm Detroit, I'm probably doing this because I'm not really feeling the loss of Sasser. I'm not really feeling the loss that much of Tobias Harris, although he did give them good playoff minutes this year. It was a nice veteran. I'm feeling the loss of Isaiah Stewart for sure. It's just that Drew Holiday contract isn't great, and would you rather get a bigger name that's making that much money or a better name down the line? But I really like the idea of Cam Johnson in Detroit as well. For Boston, I think you get, like, if I'm moving Hauser and Drew Holiday for Isaiah Stewart, you could still compete next year. You keep Kristaps, you keep the, like, Jaylen Brown there, and obviously you want to keep Derek White around Tatum, and you're keeping Pritchard, obviously. I mean, I think that's a great trade for Boston. If you shed some, like, that's going to save them, like, over $100 million against the luxury tax. And then the last trade is Giannis Antetokounmpo to the Houston Rockets. So this one is not involving Alperen Sengun. I wonder, man, because I've been very adamant that they would have to give up Sengun in a Giannis trade. And I remember I did a rebuild, my Rockets elimination rebuild. I traded Sengun Green, maybe Whitmore or one of the young guys in draft capital for Giannis. And man, I got a lot of comments from Rockets fans saying, we are like, what is that trade? It's horrible. We're not moving Sengun. I don't know, man. Like, Giannis Antetokounmpo is a top 3 player in the league. He's in the middle of his prime. He puts up 30, 10, and 6 like it's nothing. He's shown up in the playoffs. He's got a finals MVP to his resume, and he's under contract for at least the next 2 years. I just feel like he would go for a haul. What value does Jalen Green have to me now? We just saw him be a horrible, inefficient shooter and not a great defender against the Warriors in round 1. Now, it was his first playoff series. I expect Jalen Green to be better over time, but he's making a decent amount of money going forward. Jabari Smith is still kind of a project, but I think there's still something there. Cam Whitmore took a step back this year, in my opinion. He's also a good athlete, but not a good playmaker and a shooter, and he's not even that efficient of a shooter at the specific volume right now. I'm getting a 2025 Suns pick. Maybe if that moves up into the top 4, I'd want it, but if it's at number 10, I don't know. And you're getting 2027 Suns pick, which could have some value, but if they're not moving Devin Booker and they're retooling around Kevin Durant, you never know. They could be a play-in tournament team at the minimum in 2027, and that pick could be, I don't know, that pick could at least be like 11, like it's okay. And maybe you can get those picks, like the 27 pick, and that can get you Devin Booker down the line, but now we're playing what ifs. I just don't think Milwaukee would accept this. I don't. Maybe it's their best offer. Maybe they would lose a lot more leverage than I think if Giannis requested a trade, and they would only want to send him to like the spots he would wants to go, and that's maybe LA, New York, or I think Houston. There was an article about that. I don't know how accurate that was. I don't like this return for Milwaukee. I mean, I love this return for, oh my God, if you get to keep Sengun for Giannis, and then it's like Van Vliet, you bring him back, you figure out the shooting guard spot. That could be a mid-level exception guy. That could be, you give Malik Beasley the bag. It could be Reed Shepherd next year. You keep him in all this. And I get to have a man at the 3, Giannis at the 4, Sengun at the 5. Now, the floor spacing is not fun there. I agree. So you got to get a shooter at the 2. And then you also keep Tari Eason in all of this. You get to keep that Brooklyn swap you have as well and all your individual first-round picks. Oh, my God, man. Like, the Rockets are not only set up now, but for the future. I just don't like the return for Giannis here from Milwaukee. Because, like, what is your team next year? It's who's going to take 15 shots a night between Whitmore, Jabari, and Green with, like, Dame out for the year. And Kyle Kuzma, oh my God, Kyle Kuzma, Jalen Green, Cam Whitmore out there at the same time. Doc Rivers may retire mid-season. And then I do like Jabari Smith is probably the best asset in this deal. Like, you can keep Whitmore and Green. Like, I'll take Jabari, Shepherd, and Sengun. I just think if Milwaukee's got, like, they don't have the leverage here. They don't have to trade Giannis. He's under contract. And I don't think Giannis, like, for what he's done for Milwaukee and how much he likes the city, that he's going to be like, I'm not going to play. Like, he's going to play next year if you don't trade him. And we've seen this before with like Sean Marks and Kevin Durant, that they are not going to trade their guys if they don't have to, or Daryl Morey and like Ben Simmons, or Daryl Morey and James Harden. So yeah, that is the last one. My favorite one out of this is probably, I like the Anthony Simons to Orlando. I just think Black is a little bit much, but you can let me know, Magic fans or Blazers fans, am I overrating Black and am I underrating Anthony Simons? I think there could be a framework to Mitchell Robinson to LA as the Knicks, I think, need to acquire more depth because going into next year, Mikal, Hart, OG, Cat, and Brunson have a lot of miles on them. If you could bump down their minutes a little bit next year, that would be key to having them fresh for a 2026 playoff run because they are going to be tired after these playoffs. And then the Miami Heat one, I don't know if that's more of a lateral move for them and if it's really worth it. The Celtics, I like the idea of them turning Drew and Hauser into Isaiah Stewart. I like the idea of Drew and Cam Johnson in Detroit. I just don't know if Brooklyn will loves that return for Cam Johnson, but maybe they can reroute Sam Hauser or somebody like that. And Marcus Sasser isn't like the most intriguing asset there. I mean, I don't think you can get Ron Holland, but I'm asking for Ron. And then I love Giannis to Houston. I think it makes a ton of sense for both Giannis and the franchise of Houston. I just think Milwaukee needs a little bit more going forward. So yeah, that is going to be for me. Hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the Just Ballin' podcast. Tomorrow's episode on Friday should be me talking about some of the playoff disappointments so far. So you probably know who I'm going to be talking about on the Boston Celtics because he has not had a good start to the series. And honestly, there's been like a little bit of a 3-year Jason Tatum tipping the 3-point shot in the playoffs. So we'll mention that on tomorrow's episode, as well as some other guys that kind of underwhelmed throughout the playoffs. And then Saturday, it's still TBD on that episode as well, because I didn't get you guys something out on Wednesday. I try to get 5 episodes out for you guys throughout the week, and especially while the NBA season has so much going on with offseason talk. The lottery's on Monday, the playoffs are going on, we have the combine starting next week as well, and you guys are probably going to get a lot of draft content on this channel, on this podcast, because I just kind of like talking about the draft, and there's only so much I can throw on my other channels, and more that I want to get off my chest in a tweet as well. So yeah, thank you guys all for watching and listening. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.